All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome to my talk, Promoting Gamification in an Old-Fashioned Corporate World. My name is Sara Larsson. I'm a software engineer and gamification designer at CGI in the Netherlands. Today, I will start by introducing you a bit first to myself, gamification and CGI, where I'm working. And after that, I will talk a bit about gamification, what we have been doing, why we are trying to do gamification, and what challenges we've been facing. And yeah, I hope you'll find it interesting. So about myself, I'm originally from Sweden, from a city called Västerås. I've always been really passionate about games, and because of that I decided to study games as well, and I studied at the Blekinge Institute of Technology in Karlshamn. And towards the end of my bachelor there, I focused on programming for games. I met a Dutch guy online in a game, Guild Wars 2, and because of that I decided to start looking for education in the Netherlands to, an adventure to study abroad and to see if things would work out between us. We are still together, living together in the Netherlands. So after my education, which was at the University of Amsterdam, where I studied design for applied games, I started working at a small startup company with focus on gamified trainings for the medical industry. And after that, roughly 2 years ago, I started at CGI. So, gamification. Does anyone already here have some experience or knowledge about gamification? Maybe worked with it? Yeah, a few people, that's nice. So, what is gamification then actually? One definition I like is made by Gabe Sicherman, which is that gamification is a process of using game thinking and game dynamics to engage audiences and solve problems, which I think is a really nice definition. However, if you're working with people not familiar with the game industry or games in general, it's some terms that are a bit ambiguous. So within CGI, we decided to come up with our own type of definition that we could use to communicate both internally and with our clients of what we are trying to do with gamification, which is gamification is to use elements and techniques from games to tackle real-world challenges. So a bit more basic description of it. And at CGI we're also chosen to bundle several different terms under the word gamification, so also serious games, applied games, etc. So we're not making any differences between these slightly different ways of doing gamification. So most of you have probably come into contact with gamification in one way or another. So I'll show you some examples so you can get a bit of a feeling and know where you've seen it before. So one place is LinkedIn uses it. So at your profile you have a kind of progress bar that shows how well you've filled in your profile, as well as you also have the endorsements that try to motivate you to engage more with your network and to prove yourself how skilled you are. Another one is Duolingo, which is a language learning platform. This was something I used a lot when I moved to the Netherlands to get a bit of a basic understanding of the Dutch language. And it uses gamification to make learning a bit more fun, a bit more playful, as well as try to engage you to come back and do practice every day. And one last example is the Fitbit or other type of fitness trackers. They use a lot of gamification to try to challenge you and make you reach your goal and to set new goals. An example can be that you should aim to walk at least 10,000 steps per day, or maybe challenge yourself to set up to run a marathon. And in general, gamification is really good at motivating people, to encourage the behavioral change, to learn and train people, and to do these kind of things in a more playful way. And as I mentioned, I'm currently working at CGI in the Netherlands, and since I'm going to talk about what we are doing with gamification from within the company, I think it's important that you get an understanding of what kind of company it is. So far we are not really involved in the game industry much, but of course we're hoping this might change. And it's a old and really big company. So it was founded a bit more than 40 years ago in Canada but now we have offices in 40 different countries, and we are more than 70,000 employees throughout the whole world. And it's a company focused on IT consulting and outsourcing. So we are working for a lot of different clients to do outsourcing and consultancy businesses with them. And what we are trying to do to differentiate ourselves a bit from our competitors is to really work closely with the clients, try to be where the clients are located so we can create a close relationship with them. And we are also working in units within the company in different sectors so that we can create domain knowledge that match the clients. We can more easily help the clients with the different problems they might have, and we can also have the knowledge of how to solve these problems. So here you can see some different sectors we are working in. I'm currently located in the transport and logistics sector, and some of our big clients that you might recognize is Shell, BMW, DHL, and yeah, of course, it's very different to work in such a big company. Especially for myself, I mentioned I came from a small startup where we then, before I left, I think we were around 20 people. So going from knowing absolutely everyone in the company, you can all sit at the same table eating lunch, to going over to such a big corporate place, it was quite a bit change of mind, and now I can barely even keep up with all the different projects we are doing within the company. But at the same time, you get the benefits of having a lot of colleagues, a lot of expertise, and a lot of knowledge within the company. And we decided to start with gamification at CGI. So this started roughly 4 years ago, so I was not there all the way from the beginning. And before this, CGI had done very little with gamification and not in any kind of structured way. And it all started with two of my friends and colleagues joined the company. I started together with them in Amsterdam. And when you join such a big company, sometimes you might feel a little bit lost because you have so many people around you, there's so much stuff going on, and it might be difficult to know who you want to be and what your spot within the company should be. And of course, when you start your career, you always want to be able to use your background and use the skills you built up so far. And because of that, my colleagues decided, like, you know what, let's try to push some for gamification. Let's see what we can do within the company. Maybe it's something that actually can take off. And through a whole lot of passion, a bit of networking, and a little bit of luck, we now actually have quite an active gamification community and a lot of projects going on within the company. And it all mainly started with a hackathon. It was hosted by Delta Lloyd with focus on smart mobility. One of my colleagues were invited there to join a team from CGI because of people he met at the networking dinner just after he joined. And they decided to use data gathered from delivery drivers from the cars to see how can we analyze how a driver is driving, can they drive more efficiently, what kind of tips can we do to motivate them to change the driver behavior so they can drive more efficient and more environment friendly. And then my colleagues said, hey, could be a really good opportunity to use gamification, because if you want to motivate people to change, we should do it in a fun way and more inciting way to get them to actually reach our goals. And they brought this idea back from the hackathon to the company, and people were really excited about it. And they said, okay, you know what, let's start developing this. Let's see if we can connect with some of our clients to see if they would be excited about it. And the DHL was one of the clients that really wanted it. And they started implementing it in Rotterdam, where they quickly could see a 10% decrease of fuel use and the drivers driving more efficiently and environment friendly. And since then they have been expanding to the rest of the Netherlands, and I believe now they're also looking into spreading it to the rest of the DHL throughout the world. And around this time, we were also opening our Spark Center in the office in Rotterdam. So the Spark Center is a meeting place where we want to show off all our most innovative projects, a place where we can have meetings with the clients to try to inspire them and showcase what CGI is doing. So when this place opened, all the most important managers from the company was there, our most important clients were there. They had even invited Mark Rutte, who is the Prime Minister of the Netherlands. So all the important people were there. And then they asked my colleague, hey, why don't you give just a 3-minute presentation about gamification? Tell what we are doing and why it's cool. And that was a small piece of luck we needed to really get it to explode through the company. So you can tell everyone what are we doing, why is it cool, and it started to create quite a buzz within the company because people heard it and they thought, this is actually quite interesting. So at this point, we were kind of almost like a small startup company, but within a really big corporation. And this is, of course, give both benefits and create some challenges, which I will talk about later. But in general, CGI started to be quite interested, but still a little bit skeptical about gamification, because we still hadn't had the opportunity to deliver a lot of projects to show that this really is working and that we should be doing it more. So you saw it a bit of a buzzword, something that's up and coming, but they could also see it as a way to generate new business with our clients, show them that we are innovative, as well as maybe interest more young people to join the company, and a new way to think together with the clients to solve their problems. And in turn, from our clients, they know CGI as a company, they know that we are reliable, we have worked together with our clients a lot, so they trust us, and they know we have the expertise in the company to pull out these kind of things. And through that, we managed to get some more projects, and I'll talk a little bit about them to show what we have been doing. So one project we made for Rijkswaterstaat are responsible for the roads and the waterways in the Netherlands, and for them we made the traffic game. They had a problem that they were working to renew the software they are using to control the signage of the highways. And this was actually the third time they were trying to change this software. And CGI was part of this together with Rijkswaterstaat and a third party. And they were really worried that, okay, if this doesn't succeed this one time, there's another couple of millions down the drain for nothing. So what can we do to really make this happen, to make them accept the software? So the problem is, of course, the old software they had had for more than 15 years, the people working with it knew it inside out. So they felt, why should we change this? Because I know this, I can work with this, and if we change it to be something easier and something easier to work with, then maybe my job could be at risk. Because now, with the old software, it took them 6 months to train someone before they could actually operate the software by themselves. And with the new one, it would, of course, go a lot faster. But then we said, okay, why don't we make a bit of a game about this so we can showcase what the new concepts will be, what the benefits will be, and how it will impact their job. So we set together the traffic game. We showed off a bit how they would be able to work together between different traffic stations, because now they were all very isolated and they all had to handle their own incidents. But now it will be possible to delegate between the traffic centers. There will be some new high-level functions to delegate traffic and to do it in a more smarter way to if there's an accident, to reroute the traffic. And in general, it went quite well, and we had some user tests together with Rijkswaterstaat, because we are making a game about someone's job, and it's quite tricky because we are all proud with what we are working with, and if you can't showcase it properly, then people might take offense and feel that this doesn't represent me. So we did some user tests, a whole lot of tweaking, but in the end, people were really excited, and they said, yeah, I really feel this is cool. This is something I would like to take home to show my family, to finally be able to actually explain to them what I'm doing for a living, because it's a quite a complex system. And for us, that really felt like we hit the mark, that we felt that the workers felt represented about this, and that they could, yeah, be proud, and then in turn also use it as a communication tool between themselves to see what changes would come. And another project we made was for NS, which are the Dutch railways, the knooppunt game, and knooppunt roughly translates to connection point. The problem they were having was that they had very big logistical challenges that weren't taken seriously by the management, and they were trying to say, we have this system, we want to work on how to improve this, because now it's really cumbersome and we might need some more money to make this better. But the management would say, yeah, but you just need to wash and clean some trains, come on, how difficult could it be? And yeah, it turns out it's quite difficult, and to be able to show management what this actually is all about, we put it into a game to show, yeah, what is actually needed to do these tasks. So at certain areas in the Netherlands, you have these connection points where trains gather in the evening, and they have to be cleaned and washed before they have to go out again in the morning. And yeah, they're trains, so they're quite big to move around. There's a lot of stuff that needs to happen. You only have a set amount of cleaning crews, and you need to make sure that they are at the correct stations to be washed or cleaned. And you also have to take into account trains that might drive past this connection point, because there are still trains driving throughout the night. And as well, to show really like what needs to be done, and also that you have to be able to do it before the train has to go out in the morning again. And here NS was also very happy. They felt that this really represented what was going on, and the management could really get a feel of the problem. And they also discussed with us that maybe we could use it for training new employees, and maybe put them into their learning platform to be able to use it as a training tool. And I think this shows the strength of CGI, that we have the expertise to be able to set up these kind of systems, because me as a gamification designer, I have no idea how the trains work. I have no idea what the rules are for the highways, but together with my colleagues, we could have the knowledge to put it into an interesting game that's also realistic. And since then, we have set up quite a few projects. So Best Driver started in 2015, and with different clients, we've now been able to prove that gamification is something that actually works, and that it is something our clients are happy with. And because of that, we decided to start the Game Factory within the company. So maybe kind of to give our small group of people that have the passion and interest in gamification a name and a face out to the rest of the company. So the goal was to connect and collect all the people that have skills or interest in gamification, as well as in similar areas such as simulation, visualization, VR, AR, that we could work together with. And we wanted it to be a go-to place that is known through the company, where people know that they can go to get and find the experts for gamification, and know where to ask for people. And at this point, our small startup within the company has kind of become more like a scale-up. So we have a good base to stand on. We have created a good ground, but we still need to grow. We still need to make sure that we have a consistent flow of gamification projects, that we have something to do all the time. We still need to convince our clients and the rest of the company that we should focus on this. So what we are doing to be able to achieve this is a bunch of different things. One is, of course, to create awareness, both externally to our clients. So we go on a lot of client meetings. We try to identify problems our clients have that we could maybe solve with gamification. We're also doing a lot of internal meetings and presentations to showcase what can we do with gamification and why should we do gamification. And this spring we also set up a management training within the company, because CGI is structured in such a way that each manager is working together with 1 or 2 clients, and they're responsible for taking care of this client and making sure that we are working in a good way, and maybe also do extra sales and identify new areas that we could help them with. So focusing on these measures, we set up a training to explain what gamification is, what can CGI do in terms of gamification, why should they choose CGI for gamification, and how could they sell it. Because if we could get all these managers to sell gamification for us, then we feel like, we might have a really good shot at scaling up in a sustainable way and get a lot of cool projects. So far we had our first pilot training together with 6 managers, and they were really enthusiastic, and they could see this really taking off. So from this training we had one meeting with Transavia to start discussing if there's anything we could help them with gamification. So that's of course the benefit of working for a very big company, that you have a lot of connections, you have a lot of clients that could be potential projects for. But it also comes with a bunch of challenges, because it's quite an old-fashioned corporate world. There's not a lot of knowledge about games or what gamification is. And I remember one point we were talking to a potential client, and he said, "Yeah, guys, did you play the new Battlefield game?" We were like, "Yeah, it's a really nice game." He said, "Yeah, I want that." We were looking at him and we said, "Yeah, but you are not giving us the budget to create a new Battlefield game." So there you have to do a lot of expectations management to see what the client wants and what they're expecting, and what we actually can deliver with the budget they're giving us. Another challenge is game projects versus more normal software projects that CGI normally does. Because as you know, if you're in the game industry, is that game projects are really creative. They're often very fast-paced, they're very iterative, you have to do a lot of testing. There's a lot of stuff you will throw away because you figure out it doesn't work and it was not as fun as you thought it would be. Because that's a bit of the difference between a game and a normal project. A game should be fun, but what fun is very up to discussion, and it's not something you can just pull out on the first try. But this is of course a challenge, because our clients are not used to working that way, our managers are not used to working that way, so we have to help guide them in how you can do a game project in a good way. And another big challenge is that CGI is of course a profit company, and if there's no game project open to work on, then they're still expecting us to be billable, to write our hours on a client, which means that we are then expected to go work for a normal project, which makes it really difficult to convince them to hire people that you would take for granted in a game studio, such as pure game designers, 3D artists, sound artists, because if there's no game projects, then it's a lot more difficult to place them to another project. And that makes it so that the people working there really have to become flexible. We have to be able to do a bit of everything. We have to be able to solve problems. How do we get graphics if we don't have a graphics designer available? And that's really a big challenge. But for me, it's also been a very big learning moment, because when you're working on a normal software project, there's a lot of different things you would focus on compared to if you're working on a game, such as long-term planning. How can we maintain this project for a really long period of time? I've learned about software architecture and design. I learned about best practices for code and code quality, and how to keep your software testable. And this is then things I then can take back to the game projects I will be working on later, to give them a higher quality and be able to create better products in the end. And that has been quite a interesting mix of the best of two worlds, I think. And of course, getting the opportunity to work with really skilled people that have a lot of knowledge and that have helped me grow a lot. And one last challenge is to work for such a big company, because CGI is a global company. So far, we've focused mainly on doing gamification within the Netherlands, because it's more difficult enough to get it flying there. But it would of course be super cool to do it throughout the whole world. And so far we've had a little bit of contact with some other countries, CGI Sweden and CGI Finland, who we saw through our global communication newsletter had done a couple of gamification projects. But they seem to also not really do it in a more consistent way. It seemed it was more of a one-off. So the conversations we've had so far is mostly out of curiosity and see a bit what they're up to, so no real collaboration yet. So that would be something that could be cool to do in the future. But what comes with this also is, of course, a lot of clients, and they trust us and we have the knowledge to help them. So now we have been working on gamification within CGI for roughly 4 years, and I think it was 1 year ago we set up the Game Factory officially. And then of course it's important to look back and see what have we done good, what could we have done differently. And one challenge we were facing is a bit the chicken or the egg. So do we hire people with the skills we need for projects that might potentially come, or do we wait until we actually have the project so that we can put these people somewhere to work? And it was one period we had a lot of projects that seemed like they were going to happen around the same time. So we decided to hire a lot of people, and we also got the approval to hire people with specifically game skills, such as a 3D artist and pure game designers, which was really exciting. However, those projects didn't go through in the end, so that was really sad. But that also means that these new people we hired had nothing to do. And I know it was really frustrating for them, because you just switched jobs, you joined a new company, you were expected to work on a lot of cool stuff, and you get to hear like, yeah, well, sorry, we don't really have anything for you at the moment. And in the end, they were really valuable to the Game Factory, because they started to do a lot of business development, to talk to clients and set up potential new projects. However, when they were hired, this was not what they were expected and were expecting to do. So the communication there didn't really align up. So I know I was talking to them, and for a while they were really thinking, is this really where I want to be? Maybe I should look for a new job. But I'm very happy they stayed, and now we have more game projects again, and yeah, we can really use their skills, which is cool. And another thing we also noticed we didn't really do properly was to set up a good vision for the Game Factory we could share with our company and our clients, because there were some people that just would see the Game Factory to be really a go-to place, a collection for people to do gamification, but some people within the company really saw it as a high-end consultancy group that they would assign to the client. Of course, then how you market this towards a client for potential projects differs a lot. And that could have been a bit better to make sure we had a more streamlined vision and knowledge base throughout the company. As for the future, we have some ideas what we would like to do. One is to set up an internal framework, so how we actually do gamification projects, because as I mentioned, there's a lot of our managers that don't really know how to handle such a project. And we want to be able to set up a clear framework to help guide them how do you approach such a project. We would also like to set up more internal trainings for our employees, so really look at how do we what kind of skills do we need within the company to become good gamification designers and gamification developers. And it's quite interesting to think about, okay, what do we need to learn? How can we become better? And here we're also considering how we can convey these things to our clients. For example, one thing that we would love to do is more validation of our projects. At the moment with the clients, we are often discussing, when are you happy with this project? What is your success criteria? And it can be everything from, oh yeah, it just creates a good buzz within the company, to we want 400 voluntarily downloads within our internal app store. And this is of course good that they know when they are happy, but it doesn't show if the game was effective or if it reached the goal that we were expecting it to, because that would be something that would help us to grow and learn and improve our designs. But of course the challenge is again that someone needs to pay for this, and either we need to try to sell this to the client that in addition to the game we also should do post phase with validation. But it's quite a bit of a balance to see what could be a good approach there. And the dream would be to create a gamification career path within the company, because now when you join CGI, you can choose maybe a technical path or a more business development path or a more manager path. But if you come to do gamification, you might not really fit in any of these boxes. And if it really managed to take off within the company, it would be super cool to say, okay, you will be a gamification designer within CGI. And through that way, I then also hope that we could create more ties together with the game industry to be more renowned for what we want to do, and then be able to also go more global with these things. But in general, I would say that for me it's really nice to see how your passion can grow into something sustainable, and that maybe places where you wouldn't expect things like this to be able to grow is actually a platform for it. And I've been thinking that the game industry is really have matured lately, and it's fun to see that these subjects is spreading out into more areas. I know that I was at the Unite last year and Unity's own conference, and they then had a track that was fully focused on automatic cars and car development in general. And it's really nice to see that games and the game industry is just putting out ties into a lot of different industries, and I'd like to see that, because for me it's a really interesting thing to work with, to see how can you use games to make the world a better place, and how can you use game elements to improve more boring subjects. And I hope that within CGI we can actually reach these goals we have for the future. And I hope that you enjoyed the talk, and that maybe you learned something and feel inspired. You can take some questions now, and if you want to come talk to me later, do you have my contact details here, and I'm also going to be around here at the Nordic Game Conference for all 3 days. So thank you very much.
Hi. Are there any plans on expanding into the public sector to maybe deal with the very outdated administrative systems that exist in the state, for example?
Yeah, that would of course be one way to do, because CGI does a lot of business to business, and I know that within the states they are working with several government and agencies. So if we could expand that far, it would be a really nice challenge to take on. But at the moment, since we are focusing mostly on the Netherlands, it's been more adding value to the clients we have there. And at the startup phase, we've been trying to bundle it a bit together with projects that already existed. So, for example, the traffic game I showed, it was kind of sold in parallel with the other big project we were making. So, but we hope that once we, that now when we have a good base, that we can start to selling them as a separate project as well.
All right, thank you.
There's one over there, I think.
First of all, thank you for your talk, very inspiring. And could you tell something about the difference between a gamification career path and a game designer career path?
Yeah, for us,
what are the main differences between these two things?
Yeah, for us, because yes, we don't want to split it up too much, because within CGI we don't have a lot of different career paths, and they are in general quite open. So, for example, if you do the technical path, you can become maybe a tester, or you can become a software architect. So it's not something that is has a clear defined goal. It's more open-ended. That's also what we wanted the gamification career path to be, that you could go into gamification either maybe as a more of a developer with focus on this, or maybe more as a designer that could also then do more of the business development, but more that we keep them under the same under the same group.
Okay, thank you.
All right, then thank you very much, and I hope you enjoyed it, and that you will enjoy the rest of the conference as well.